This is part 2 of how to entertain children of all ages outdoors. Stay tuned. Hey sitters, welcome back to another video. It is Lydia. Thanks for joining me. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to entertain kids of all ages and all group sizes, kids of multiple ages in that group, how we're going to entertain them outside. The weather is becoming really nice here in Florida, so we are starting to get out more. I like to take kids to the park often, so these are some games that I found are really useful for ages of all kinds and group sizes of all kinds. So let's dive in. So the first game that I like to play with all ages and all group sizes is red light, green light. Everybody stands on one line. You say red light, they go, or no, you say green light and they go. Yellow light is for them to be walking and green light is running. So, and they're all supposed to be running towards me. So I stand at one end of the field, they stand at another, and red light, green light, yellow light, whatever rule applies with that light, they do. For red light, if the older kids do not stop immediately, I send them back to the line and they have to start over. For the younger kids, I give them a little leadway because, of course, they're younger and they don't always completely understand the rules of the game. So, red light, green light is a great one, includes everybody, is very simple, and rules are known and are easily followed. The second game I like to play with the kids is soccer. Now, that does not mean I get a team together and we play a team against a team. I do not always have enough kids for that. Soccer can look very different depending on what ages I'm working with. We can absolutely get a game going with four of us, 2-on-2, if they're older kids. If they're younger kids, I like to just kick the ball around. There's not necessarily a game going on. One of my kids, he just likes to kick the ball back and forth and chase you while you have the ball. So there's not really a game going, but it is soccer. If I have older kids and younger kids, and I think the older kids are going to be too rough with the younger kids during the game, what we'll do is we'll pass the ball back and forth in a zigzag. So stay with me on this, I'm going to explain it. So the other day I had an 11-year-old was the oldest and a 3-year-old was the youngest. Now the 11-year-old's got some power behind her kick, so what I was doing was having her kick it to me. I'd kick it to the youngest would kick it back to me, I'd kick it back to her, so that there wasn't a connection or a kicking between the 11-year-old and the 3-year-old. I was just worried that it would have gotten out of hand or she would have cooked it too hard to the younger one and we would have had a problem. So instead of kicking it in a circle to everybody, I had them kick it to me and I would kick it back and forth between them. So that just kind of eliminated the possibility of somebody getting hurt. Now if they're all close in age, like I have a bunch of 6-year-olds, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, they can kick it back and forth. They all pretty much have the same kicking power, so that's pretty simple and pretty even across the playing field, you know. So there's a bunch of different ways you can play soccer. It does not literally have to be a game between each other or a one-on-one or anything like that. There's multiple ways you could play soccer. You could also do seated soccer, which is like you just have everybody sit on their bottoms in a circle. I usually use a beach ball for this because soccer balls, if they're kicked too hard, they hit somebody in the face and then it just goes downhill from there. So beach ball, and everybody has to kick it with their feet. So they have to be seated, but they have to kick it with their feet. And that is on the ground. So, and with a beach ball, it gets hit hard sometimes and goes out of the circle, and they have to find a way to get to the ball while seated and kick it back to the circle. It's a lot of fun. It sounds simple, but they really enjoy that game as well. The next activity I like to do with the kids is actually sidewalk chalk. It is so good for all ages. The creativity that you see in the older kids definitely comes out into their drawings on the sidewalk. I like to create obstacle courses for the kids depending on their ages. Again, if I'm working with an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, I like to make the obstacle course pretty easy, but I also put in little hidden messages that the 8-year-old can read, but not always the 4-year-old. So it's something like, if you can read this, hop 3 times, or if you can read this, go on this path instead of this path. So I like to include things like that for the older kids so that they feel really included. But mostly it's simple things. The next activity I like to do with the kids is a beanbag toss, but also like beanbag obstacle course toss. There's different things you can do with it. So beanbag toss, I try and have them stand behind a line and toss it across a line. If they hit that line or the next line, there's different point systems, so we could do it that way. But you could also have them, the older ones spin 3 times before they throw it, and the younger ones just throw it. There's a bunch of things you can do to make it difficult for the older one, or make it a even playing field if you want to. I don't always do that. Sometimes I just let the toss be the toss, no matter what, whether they're older or not, and they get the same points. You can also like have them stack it on their heads and walk to a certain line. There's a lot you can do with beanbags. Beanbag toss, so not just across the line, but to each other. So in middle school, I think I played an egg toss where we all went and picked a partner, and we tossed the egg back and forth, and then we took a step back, and we tossed the egg back and forth and took a step back. You could do the same thing with a beanbag if you have enough kids, and then you eliminate those who drop the beanbag, and then you have a winner by the end of the game. So there's a lot you could do there, but it is outside. It's an activity that engages all kids of all ages and all group sizes. The next one is bubbles. I know that my younger kids love bubbles, older kids not so much. However, if you put a twist on it and you blow bubbles directly at them and call out a body part that they need to pop their bubbles with, it turns into a fun game that becomes engaging and interesting for the older kids. Now, if we're talking 10, 11, 12-year-olds, I usually have them blow the bubbles to the younger kids because I know that they can handle it and they can do it. But if there's too many people that want to blow the bubbles, I just take over and blow them myself. But bubbles are always entertaining, and that is definitely an outside activity. Don't do bubbles in the house. The next activity that you could play with the kids is Mother May I. It's kind of like Simon Says, but I find this one a lot more engaging because it's individualized. So you have a bunch of kids lined up on a line, just like you would for green light, red light, green light. But you go down, one person's the mother, and everybody else stands on the line, and you go down the line, and everybody in the line asks the mother something. So, Mother, may I take 2 steps forward? And then the mother decides, yes, I like that, or no, and they come back with something else. So it could sound like, Mother, may I take 3 steps forward? No, you may not, but you can take 2 steps diagonal. Or, yes, you can take those 3 steps forward. And then we move on to the next person. Mother, may I take 5 steps forward? No, but you may take 2 steps forward. And then you could also go backwards. So if they're halfway across the field towards you, and they ask, Mother, may I take 1 step forward? You say, no, but you can take 3 steps back. So you're individualizing all the steps for everybody, so it's very engaging. And they have to think about what they want to ask the mother for to get to the end, to the finish line. So that's Mother May I. It's a really fun game. Again, easy for all ages to play, and an outside game. The next game I like to play is called Come and Go, and this is kind of like Mother May I, but in a different sense. So the word come equals 1 step forward, come, and go equals 1 step backwards, go. So what you do is you have everybody line up on a line, and you tell them a story. So you use those words in a story. Usually I write them out beforehand just so that I'm not trying to think off the top of my head about a story using those words. But you'd say something like, today I went to go to the store and realized halfway there that I didn't need to go. And so I had come back home. and so on and so forth. So you're using those words in a story, and they are adding, or they're memorizing how many times you say go and how many times you say come, and they use their memory and their math skills to decide how many steps forward they have to go and how many steps they have to take back after that story. And then you tell another story and they have to do the same thing. And on those stories, I make sure that I'm writing the forward and the backward count, so that if they don't have the correct counts forward and they don't have the correct counts backwards, they don't get to move. So this is more for the older kids. Again, it's memorization, it's math skills, but it keeps them really engaged to listening to the story and to the game overall. You can, with the younger kids, let them say, let them move while you're telling the story. However, it can get really confusing for them because they're not truly listening and they're just waiting for somebody else to take a step forwards and backwards and then copy them when that may not be the right amount of steps. So I usually just wait for everybody to do it at the end of my story so that I know who's correct and who's not. I like to go to playgrounds and parks, and they like to play hide and seek at the playground. I'm not a big fan of hide and seek, but I will make sure that the younger ones are finding good hiding spots, and I'll still include myself, but I just won't play. I'll help the younger ones count. Freeze tag is always a great one. There's other games out there that you can play that are very simple, but the ones that I mentioned in the video I like because it includes everybody. They're interesting, they're engaging, they're different than the normal ones that we play day to day. So those are the ones that I really try to use, but there are games out there that are super simple, easy, and are your go-to everyday outdoor games to play with kids. That is all I have for you guys today. I do want to ask you what you guys like to play outside, and if you guys play games that I haven't mentioned here, or if you have found any creative ways to include a big group of kids of all ages in a game all together. It's not always easy to do so, but I'm always trying to expand my list of games that I want to play. So let me know down in the comment section below if you have any ideas. If you have any other questions, please let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.